right, folks, today is Wednesday. Ooh, it's been a brutal day. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the World Health Organization declares an international pandemic due to the coronavirus. NCAA March Madness, we played with no games with fans. San Francisco and Seattle ban all outdoor events. The Golden State Warriors will now be playing in front of no fans as well. A sister tests positive for coronavirus at the Black Enterprise Women of Power Summit. We'll give you all of the details, breaking down the impact of the coronavirus. Also today, Senator Bernie Sanders goes before the cameras to state what his plans are when it comes to the Democratic race. He's not getting out, but he realizes he's got a problem. Also, Ebony settles a $500,000 settlement with the family of an FBI detective. They wrote a piece where they said that his sons were involved in the death of a young black man in Georgia, but they used a fictitious character. What the hell were they thinking? So we'll tell you all about that as well. Yo, it's a jam-packed show, folks. And also, a Houston pastor, Reverend Kirbyjohn Caldwell, hugely known all across the country, pleads guilty to an investment scam. I'll give you all those details. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling.
Folks, it has been an absolutely huge day. The World Health Organization, they have now declared an international pandemic as a result of the coronavirus, and talk about how things have changed dramatically since February 25th, when the Trump administration came out and said, look, we pretty much got the airtight, this thing under control. Donald Trump said we got this thing down to zero. Well, if that's the case, why are we having more and more and more cases being confirmed every single day? All right, folks, if you look at here, here's the problem. We are so far behind in the testing. So look at this. As of right now, as of March 8th, in the United States, we've tested 1,707 people. Based upon our population of 329 million, that's 5 tests per 1 million. Look at South Korea. They've been far more aggressive in this. They've tested 189,000 people. That is nearly 3,700 per 1 million. They have a total of 51.3 million. This, folks, shows you what happens when you have idiots who are running the whole process. States all across the country have been saying that, look, we need some sort of leadership from the United States. Well, Dr. Fauci, who testified today before Congress, he said this thing is going to get worse before it gets better. Listen to this.
Based upon the current trajectory, how many people do you think will get this new virus, and how many people do you think will die?
You cannot predict, and that's.
I know you can't predict, but there must be. We have a graph. We have the beginning of a graph. We know this is going to go up. We have the experience of China. We have the experience of Italy.
Yeah.
Can you give us some projections?
It is going to be totally dependent upon how we respond to it. So I can't give you a number. If we now sit back complacently.
I'm not asking to be complacent. I'm asking for a realistic. I mean, that's what the public is looking for.
I can't give you a realistic number until we put into the factor of how we respond. If we are complacent and don't do really aggressive containment and mitigation, the number could go way up and be involved in many, many millions. If we taught to contain, we could flatten it. So there's no number answer to your question until we act upon it.
Based upon the current trajectory, how many people?
All right, folks, that is Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. one of the best and brightest in this country. Unfortunately, you do not have the best and brightest who are actually running this whole process when it comes to the White House. They've been given so many conflicting information, especially the problem is coming from Donald Trump himself. In fact, he was just tweeting today complaining about everyone else and what they are doing, as opposed to focus on trying to keep America's calm. In fact, here was a tweet that was sent out that I thought was quite interesting. Right here, go right here, folks. Jim Sciutto. This is what he put it out. Trump last week. Coronavirus cases going very substantially down. Fauci today. The bottom line, it's going to get worse. Trump will have a vaccine in months. Fauci, vaccine in a year to year and a half. Trump, the death rate is going to be way under 1%. Fauci, death rate 1%, 10 times more lethal than the flu. Y'all, that's what's going on here. Also, Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., has declared a state of emergency in the nation's capital as well as a result of this. You've also had Jay Inslee. Of course, Jay Inslee, he is the governor of the state of Washington. He stood before the cameras and declared that they are barring any events taking place out with 250 or more people in 3 separate counties. He has been, of course, one of the folks who has been extremely vigorous in combating this whole issue. The problem, though, is you've had over here, Donald Trump constantly fighting with him, calling him out, calling him utterly ridiculous as well. And so that's what's going on here. I told you, in San Francisco and Seattle, they've banned large gatherings. As a result, the Golden State Warriors, they are not going to be playing their NBA games in front of fans. Also, the NAB, one of the largest media shows attracting thousands every single year, they postponed their conference in Las Vegas. NCAA made their decision that no fans will be present during March Madness. All games will be played, but there'll be no fans present as well. This shows you exactly how folks are worried to death with what's going on. You also have, of course, in New York State, where the National Guard has established this perimeter around New Rochelle as well. It just goes on and on and on. Let's go to our panel. A. Scott Bolden is the former chair of the National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Lauren Victoria Burke, writer with NNPA, and Derek Holly, president, Reaching America podcast, political analyst. Folks, again, what we are facing here is, I reiterate this again. Yesterday, I played the video of Larry Kudlow, the president's chief economic advisor, going on CNBC on February 25th saying this is, quote, to airtight contained. That's literally what he said, Derek. The crazy thing is you had Trump going to the CDC, interrupting the experts. If anybody wants a test, they get a test. Anybody, they want a test, they get a test. That's a lie. And so the problem here is this is, and this is the thing that jumps out. For all these MAGA folks who run their mouths, this is where you want government. This is where government matters. And you have somebody who came in and just gutted government in many ways, lots of jobs that are unfulfilled, and now we're seeing what happens when you don't have a proper response to a growing crisis.
Well, you know,
Derek.
our...
Hold on. I said Derek.
It's a growing crisis, yeah. And yeah, Trump puts his foot in his mouth a lot with this whole, from the beginning on this particular issue. But I think it comes down to government, as you stated, but it's going to be local government that needs to get involved in this. And I think that's what the case is. They had a mayor of a town in New Jersey who had one of the first cases in New Jersey. A 67-year-old woman passed away. But they feel like right now that they've gotten a handle on the whole entire situation. And he's pointed to the fact that most of the people, they're going to have to, the result is that we're going to have to deal with local government. He also talked about... He also talked about...
Finish your point.
The last thing I'll just add before you dump in, yeah, they can't get the test. That's a problem. The point I was going to make is what the media is not talking about is the number of people who have recovered from this coronavirus. And I think that's something huge that needs to be put out there. Okay. Because he talked about the number of people in his community. He talked about the number of one person who died, but he talked about the thousands of people who have recovered.
Okay, but here's the issue here, and this is where you have to understand. I get this whole idea of it's local government, but the federal government was the one that rejected the World Health Organization offer help when it came to the testing. Now, we develop our own. You look at what's happening in Australia, where they literally have drive-through testing. Hasn't even happened here. Right. You have, where they announce, oh, we're going to have 1 million tests by the end of the week. Then we get to Friday, we're not going to have those. And so that's the problem here. Local and state governments, again, I use Jay Inslee, the governor of the state of Washington State. Here he was trying to lead. You've got Trump slamming him and trashing him because he was critical. I'm sorry, in a health crisis, you do not need the president of the United States trashing governors who are dealing with people who are getting sick or who may very well die.
Yeah. Well, this is the non-reality, though. And this is where his lies and promotions, if you will, of everything's fine and positive, the rubber meets the road when you're talking about a health crisis, a world pandemic health crisis that's been labeled by the World Health Organization. On these local governments, though, they're relying on the federal government to have these tests. I know 2 people who have the corona have gone to the hospital and their doctors to be tested, and the kits aren't available here in the DMV. Here in the DMV.
Don't
and so
shake my hand.
the president, I said I knew them. I didn't say I was hanging out with them. But the president and
there's some hospitals that don't even want to test.
Exactly.
It's like, look, we don't want to know what you got, because the moment they test positive, it changes their whole protocol.
Exactly.
Now, okay, that's kind of scary that a hospital's kind of like, hey, I need you to go ahead home. We ain't testing you.
Oh, but they have to quarantine them, and then that's a huge expense. And insurance care. Watch and see what the indirect or the secondary cost is. So, for example, in Washington, it is gala season. There must be 10 or 12 galas in the next 3 to 6 months.
Around the country.
Okay, around the country, right?
First of all, game this whole thing out. Nonprofits and galas, church services. I'm already getting text messages from people who are saying that they're going to church online. So here's the whole. So all of a sudden, when you start talking about, Lauren, what's happening right now, stock market again down huge today as well. Okay, now it's lost more than 5,000 points in the past couple of weeks.
Right.
Now all of a sudden. Now it's going on and on and on. I mean, look, we're sitting here. We share an office with the folks at 50 CAN, Education Reform Group. Their staff work at home for the rest of the month because most of the people take the subway.
Right.
And so I don't think people really understand. Airlines have said that this is twice as worse than what they dealt with after 9/11.
Yeah, well, obviously, I mean, 9/11, though, had that element, at least in the coming week there, of sort of knowing that it was, quote, over only because we stopped getting attacked after the first initial thing. This, of course, has the element of a complete sort of aura of unpredictability. You have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
There's no bottom.
And there's no protocol from this government. There's no plan. Obviously, the president's going to get on TV tonight at 9 o'clock and probably confuse everybody further. Because, as you know, as we sit here, Nancy Pelosi and him are not even on speaking terms. She has already said that the government has to continue working. They are out of session, at least the House is next week. So anything, obviously, that involves people gathering in a large sense is going to be canceled or disrupted, and that, of course, is going to have a rippling economic impact, to say the least. Yeah. I actually do think that because power does love a vacuum, these state and local governments are going to have to step in. They really have absolutely no other choice.
No choice.
Of course, the problem is they don't have the power to do what the federal government can do.
Right.
With regard to resource, with regard to anything. So we're learning a lot more on watching like MSNBC and CNN and the doctors that are on there than we are from the President of the United States.
And now, hold on one second. Now we're getting what so Trump is going to be speaking in a primetime address on coronavirus again.
Right.
It shows you how idiotic this man is, where he dismissed this.
Right.
He was like, hey, this thing's going to go away, all sort of stuff along those lines, every single day.
He's a real estate agent. And he's a dumb real estate agent, right? He's a real estate agent that got $5 million from his dad to have his start, because he's not self-made like Michael Bloomberg. So this is a guy who apparently knows nothing about just the basics of strategy and planning in a crisis, right? I mean, you don't really have to be an expert in everything. You don't have to be Dr. Fauci, but you got to listen to the experts and give them the access
I'm sorry,
to.
This is the same person who at the CDC who said, the doctors told me that I knew so much about this that maybe I should have gone into this instead of running for president. Like, my uncle was a professor at MIT, and so smartness runs in our family. This idiot actually said that.
He's got exactly the wrong personality to fix any sort of problem, but particularly something like this that requires him to give deference to others who have expertise.
And here's the deal. Here's the deal. Okay, even though he absolutely screwed up how they handled the whole HIV needle issue in Indiana, actually dared the person who, I mean, in this crisis,
Pence is
the person who is actually looking like a leader is supposed to lead is Vice President Mike Pence in terms of having twice daily briefings, pulling folks together, and then again,
and getting out of the way.
And you got this, this toddler over there who's kind of like, hey, can I get on the microphone? Hey, it's sort of like bringing your child to a news conference. And no, I'm telling you, dealing with Trump is the equivalent of I guess when Stephen Curry had Riley, his daughter, and she would be grabbing the microphone and she'd be like pointing to the press. That's Trump.
I mean,
it's like dealing with a grown-ass child.
Can I say something about local governments, though?
Hold on, go finish your point.
Obviously, Trump, he's out of bounds on a lot of this stuff right now. He's out of control. And he's lost with this. But at the same time, as you pointed out, I'm glad that Pence is here to navigate this whole thing. And most of the time, as the president, you're supposed to look to your people and shut up. Unfortunately, he does not.
Or get out of the way.
And the problem here, Scott, the reason why this is such a problem is because what we're seeing with financial industry, what we're seeing with, all of these different sectors, what is the one thing he jumps to? Oh, we need a payroll tax. But the payroll tax only through the election.
Right.
See, again, what he's not doing is sitting the hell down and saying, okay, team, what we're about to endure is an economic calamity.
And this is our strategy.
And we need to, so what we should do is
let's come up with a strategy.
Listen to your people.
What is our short term, our mid term, our long term?
Exactly.
Look, I'm on the board of the National Association of Black Journalists. Okay? We've got regional conventions coming up in the next 2 months. I'm Vice President Digital. We've got a national convention coming up in July 8th through 12th, which is the biggest economic. That convention, what we make from that convention, funds our entire organization.
For the year.
So, as a vice president, what do? Call our executive director. What's your plan? What are we doing? Here are our conference calls when it comes to whether or not we're going to cancel our regional conventions, whether we're going to continue them. If we do, are we offering refunds? We can go down the line into all the things that we're doing. We're not sitting here jumping, okay, cancel the convention. No, because we want to see what happens in March, in April, in May before we determine what we do in July. It's a methodical approach. What it's not is this, hey, no. Trump literally put a tweet out. Hey, good time to buy some stocks. He literally put that out there. And it was like, dude, do you see what's going on?
Dumb is dangerous.
You're lucky.
And we'll see tonight.
Dumb is real.
I was thinking that
makes
tonight.
it tonight. Whether he makes it worse is the question. Frankly, I think the governors and the state and local officials, the mayors, et cetera, should really ignore him. The problem is they can't completely ignore him because the federal funding and the federal money is real. So hopefully the members of Congress...
They asked Congress for $8.3 billion on this whole deal.
And hopefully the Republicans on the Senate side will figure out how to get him out of the way so he can just sign whatever he needs to sign.
And the $8.3 billion was specifically go to the states. This is where in going back to January, this is where in moments of crisis, where again, all of a sudden it's okay, we gotta move billions now. Where can we take it from? Where can we get it from? What can we do without having to even before we even go to Congress? Because you got to put together the right bill. Because here's the other piece, Scott. You got to know what to ask Congress for. You got to know whether, okay, are we asking Congress for $4 billion, or we're going to ask for $8.3 billion, and then all of a sudden, damn, we got to go back a week later and ask for $10 billion. It is understanding this process here, and the problem is, you're dealing with you're dealing with, okay, all the crazy conservatives who were at CPAC, who was running around going,
Self-quarantine.
this not real, this not real.
Right.
And guess where one of the first cases in Washington, D.C. came from? CPAC.
Right.
But these local and state governments have to do something to manage their businesses in their region. So, for example, these nonprofits, the national NABJ is in the summertime, but some of these conferences and galas are happening right now. The hotels, up until today in D.C., were trying to enforce those agreements. They were accepting money, they got money, but they were enforcing these agreements. And nonprofits and several of my clients were arguing on the phone with me about what can we do about this. They're forcing us to put 1,000 people in a dining room for a gala when we know that's unhealthy and
Wow,
unsafe.
hold on one
and
second.
not the
Hold on one
corona.
second. Breaking, the Senate GOP just blocked an emergency paid sick leave bill intended to deal with the fallout of a global pandemic.
Well, that's actually not that bill. If that's the bill I think it is that DeLauro?
I'll pull up in a second. Keep going.
That bill is not the actual
This bill
sort of
put forth by
aid
Democrats.
for the emergency.
Right. But this bill put forth by Democrats would guarantee 14 days of paid leave for workers affected by the coronavirus. Because here's the problem right now.
Right.
Trump and his folks are only thinking about the corporation, how it impacts them.
And the stock market.
Right.
Here's the problem with what you're talking about. Okay, we just saw this with South by Southwest. Okay, they canceled South by Southwest. Monday, they laid off a third of their full-time staff.
Exactly. That's the second
Gone.
part of what I was going to say.
You mentioned the hotels.
Yeah.
Now, and again, I'm not taking up the hotel side, but here's the problem here. Hotels, anybody who understands the hotel business, a lot of those businesses in Austin, their year
Yep.
was predicated on South by Southwest.
Right.
That gets canceled. Now it's like, oh my God. So what then happens? Then all of a sudden, you might then have hotel layoffs, restaurant layoffs.
Right. It's domino
food service,
effect.
all of a
Right.
sudden.
Exactly.
So now, what's now happening also again? Before I came on, 2 CBS News employees also now have coronavirus. Now they're moving on it. I talked to one woman who's a contributor for another network. She said because an employee at that network may have tested positive, they said, hey, why don't you do your hit by Skype? What people don't understand is they got to look beyond just, okay, well, this event got canceled. Oh, March Madness, no fans. Okay, understand what March Madness, no fans means. We're not
No jobs.
We're talking not just even people who work inside of the stadium. We're talking about all of the companies that were sending employees who had activations during March Madness
Sure,
at the stadiums, things outside.
Concerts.
All of us. And so now we're talking about folks who I was talking to someone yesterday. This guy's a corporate. He's a planner. He's already had $100,000 in contracts that have been canceled. His business is conventions and planning and stuff along those lines. I mean, this thing, and this is why the government response is so important. This is why the testing was so important. Because and Trump's whole deal, I don't want to get them off the cruise ship because I don't really want the numbers to go up. No, you need to have a complete handle on what's going on here and how you separate, to your point, those who have gotten well and then those who sick. Italy, in 24 hours, 200 died in the last 24 hours. That's how real this thing is. And you can't have folks who are joking around.
But look at the irony that Trump's misleading statements or just lies and only being concerned about the stock market is actually contributing to the demise of the economy, which is one of his strongest political points, by him ignoring the reality of corona, by him saying that it's going away, that it's contained, there are lots of kits and so forth and so on.
But Lauren, this is where...
He had a previous idiot habit of always saying something stupid right before a market open, usually about China trade, and I can never figure out
keep
why.
the stock
Who are you
market
gonna
rolling.
say? Sorry.
Right, no. But the point is, this is where, again, you cannot be a one-trick pony.
He's not even a one-trick pony.
This is one of those things where leaders have to step back and go, okay, this is not just about the stock market.
Right.
This is literally about the entire economic infrastructure.
There is going to be no choice for your local and state and your state, particularly state governments. Frankly, what is going to happen is that his decisions will be overtaken on the local level because they have no choice. Without any leadership, with nobody leading from the top, You are going to have to make decisions that is like you see what Mayor Bowser just did.
But there's
She's
only-
not waiting for the federal government to
And
do
that-
anything.
but there's only
the
one.
hospitality business or give some of these
Right.
nonprofits
Right.
cover
Right.
for when they're trying to renegotiate these contracts.
Right. The problem is when when you need that money that you're losing on
There
the
you go.
business, which
There you
Roland
go.
just
So
brought
the
up,
deal.
that's the
They
problem.
may not get to the fall.
So when Trump's farmers were losing money because of his tariff screw up, $30 billion.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom, here's $30 billion.
Right.
And so not only that, all the badgering he did at the Federal Reserve,
Right.
pissing them off, to force them to lower the interest rates because he wanted the economy to keep humming.
Right.
Here's the problem. This is actually when your economic stimulus is even more so important. You shot your wad because your dumb ass pushed through this tax hike, this tax cut that cost $3 billion,
Right.
and $3 trillion, and then the government already has had smaller revenue coming
Right.
in, and so
Which is
now
why he
you
was
now
trying-
made yourself it made it even more difficult to make a financial move
Which
because
is why he keeps trying to cut food stamps to pay for that tax cut, right? So now you don't have that revenue coming in
And
for that
Social
tax
Security.
cut that you gave away to the top 1%.
I just,
so there's that.
I just
You know.
want people.
He's a piece of work.
And again, here's the deal, though. Here's the deal, though. All the people who are watching, I want you to be clear. This is not about creating panic, but you do have to pay attention to what is very basic. As you begin to see what is happening in other countries, the countries that moved quickly are the countries that are ahead of this game. People may say, oh, yeah, no. This thing percolated in January. We pretty much screwed off a month. And when you're dealing with a pandemic,
Yeah.
a month
It's a lifetime.
is a problem. When you overrule your CDC and the State Department says, put infected people on an airplane with people who are not infected and don't tell anybody.
I know.
You overrule the health people.
Right.
It's a problem. And so we're actually playing catch up right now because here's the other thing, Derek. The federal government is the only entity that has the power in an emergency to say, pharmaceuticals, come in. Mask makers, respiratory, come in. We can exert a level. They're the only people who have that. Well, states, depending upon your state, how much power your governor has, but nobody has the level of power the federal government has. And we're playing catch up right now. And I've been talking to people who are local and state officials, and they said we have been put behind the 8 ball because of this sort of just who's on first thing in the federal government.
I agree with you. There's a lot of confusion going on. I mean, the messages are mixed coming from the White House, and the president needs to chill, be quiet. But where I don't agree is that where another country is ahead of us on this right here. And I look at that
But
because
they are ahead of us.
I look at it
Just look at the numbers.
as the number of deaths in this country compared to other countries. How can you say that they're ahead of us when we have
because
less
they've
deaths?
tested more people.
Yes.
per capita.
Okay.
We don't
Yes,
know what we don't know.
they've
We don't
tested
actually
more
know that.
people.
Okay.
But more people have died in other countries than here. So how the hell are they ahead of us?
Wait a minute. Follow here.
How are they ahead of us?
I will show you. And I will use.
I don't think there's any
I
other
will
metric
show
other than
you.
death.
No, Derek. It's also when did it start? Perfect example. If I'm
Derek, alive, I'm still here.
No, Derek, follow me, Derek. So let's say you're America.
That's true.
Let's say you're America. You're
That's
America.
not a hell of a
No,
metric.
Derek, wait a minute. You're America. Scott's Europe. Okay.
I don't want to be Europe.
Deal with it, okay? So Scott's over here is China, Europe, and all that sort of stuff. It's called making its way.
Mm-hmm.
The deal. Now follow me here. So if it's been there for like a month and a half, and it's been building and numbers been growing, it's making its way. It's building. Then all of a sudden, as it makes its way, you're obviously going to have fewer numbers because it hasn't spread. Now, let me stop right there. Let me go back to February 25th. Trump says, go back to that date. What were we told? We got, maybe about 15 cases. That's 15. Where are we now? Pull the chart up. Where are we now?
We don't know because we ain't
No,
got
no, no, no,
nothing
no,
else.
no.
we do
So
know.
stop right there, right there. Hold up. Hold up, wait a minute. So we've gone from, that's tested.
That's
tested.
Correct.
We had less than 100 that was tested 3 weeks ago. Now, here's the deal. You just said it. We haven't even tested enough people.
I agree with
So
you.
the
Probably a lot
problem
more
is,
people out there got it.
we haven't tested enough.
But ain't nobody dead.
Wait a minute.
Count the people are dead, right? Ain't that the metric that we're talking about right
Here's
now?
the deal.
The way you deal with this is you don't wait for people to drop dead.
Right.
Shorty,
You got
look,
to actually.
I'm gonna tell you
good
something.
litmus
What I
test.
believe, this
And
thing was
basically-
here in the United States long. It was here.
Oh, here comes the
Here comes
conspiracy.
conspiracy.
I'm
All
sorry.
right, now,
Based
another
upon
reason
what?
for the theory.
It's conspiracy.
Based on what?
You and I talked earlier.
Therapy.
And we both had. I was diagnosed as influenza B.
Okay.
Okay,
You don't
I-
have corona.
Yeah, you'd
Shorty,
be dead
it's
if
the
you had
same
corona.
symptom.
No, wait. Hold up. No, wait.
Oh, my God.
Hold up.
Pull it up.
Hold up.
Pull it
Allow
up.
me to walk me
Pull
through.
it up.
Hold up.
Pull it up.
You were diagnosed with what?
Influenza B.
What were you prescribed?
Theraflu, whatever that.
Tamiflu?
Tamiflu, yeah.
Did it go away?
It did.
Okay. Do you know there's no vaccine for this?
Yes, I'm
Right.
aware of that.
Okay.
Right.
So the difference here is they can't.
We don't know that, right?
Oh my God, we
Oh,
do.
you know the difference between
my God, we
corona
do know
and
this.
influenza
Okay.
B.
We do know this.
Yeah.
They do know the difference.
First of all, one of the things the doctors,
Okay.
one of the things they said was, they said one of the easiest tests. They said, hold your breath for 10 seconds, and if you do not cough, or let in those 10 seconds, then you more than likely aren't dealing with this because this is dealing with lungs.
That's right.
Okay, a very easy, just a simple thing to ask people to do. All right, if you exhale your breath for 10 seconds and you start coughing after 4 or 5, I'm just saying you can't say it's allergies. I'm just saying it's one of those things.
Everybody hold their breath. Let's see
Let's see what happens.
Because if somebody start coughing in them 10 seconds, I'm getting up.
All I'm saying this here is I want people watching. We do not want people to freak out. We don't want people to panic. Y'all, there was some video I saw yesterday about these ignorant ass parents. One dude was spraying his son down with disinfectant. No, literally, dog. And then,
Lysol?
bro.
Lysol?
No, and then you had this one sister who had her child straight ass wrapped in garbage bags.
With a hat?
Bruh.
With a skull cap.
And the crazy thing is, it was like holes in the area. It was okay. Matter of fact, just Henry, go, play it, Henry.
They had
And don't nobody want their child to be sick, and don't nobody want to take that virus to their house.
Parents with children at Treadwell Middle and elementary schools are not playing around. Many wiped their kids down, and some even sprayed them with disinfectant spray as they took them home one day.
Wipe my shoes and backpack down when I got them out of school. Sure did. Gave them gloves. Sure did.
Parents are doing this after they found out an employee who works at Treadwell Middle and elementary came in contact with a person who tested positive for the coronavirus in Memphis. Some took more extreme measures. Even sprayed them with disinfectant spray as they took them home one day.
Wipe my shoes and backpack down when I got them out of school. Sure did. Gave them gloves. Sure did.
Parents are doing this after they found out an employee who works at Treadwell Middle and elementary came in contact with a person who tested positive for the coronavirus in Memphis. Some took more extreme measures.
2 garbage bags. My shoes became the new. 2 sacks. Another sack.
Leaders with the show that employee is
All right, y'all. Okay. So listen, I need everybody who's at home listening. Okay. I need people to first of all calm the hell down. All right. I mean, wrapping your child in garbage bags is not gonna stop coronavirus. It's not. Okay. They've already told us first and foremost, you be washing your hands continuously. Okay. It means getting you Perel or whatever needs to be 60% or more alcohol. Okay, keep that on you at all times as well. There are basic things that you can do. Okay, stop shaking hands. In fact, I was walking down the street, I saw a fraternity brother. Hey, frat, no, no, no.
Scott wouldn't shake my hand.
That would be the frat. I know we used to.
The mighty alphas.
I know we
you
used to.
can't shake the mighty alphas' hand.
No.
Oh, Corona's coming between you and your frat brother.
Yep.
Something coming between you and your frat brother.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna be your damn.
And won't be no alpha grip. And let me tell you something. If these Kappas, y'all can shake hands and make it y'all.
Right.
Y'all can
we
do
don't
the grip.
pass Corona.
And when all
we don't pass
and,
Corona.
and both of y'all
That
fall
ain't
the hell
what we
out.
do.
Guess what? We'll be the last one standing. Still smarter than them. So all I'm saying is, I just need people to do those things. But what people also have to understand is that what is going on right now, y'all, is that there is going to be serious economic fallout. And you have to understand, initially in New York City, Chinese restaurants lost significant business. People were not showing up. This thing is going to go beyond Chinese restaurants because the problem is where people are gathered. And that's going to be an issue. And so I just want people brace for that, protect themselves, but again, be smart, but realize, and I'm telling y'all right now, hey, if you ain't got to buy it right now, don't buy it. Because I'm telling you, you better be watching your money because when this thing all of a sudden shifts and where we're going, if you start seeing far more cancellations, it's going to hit different industries, and it's just going to keep spreading until we are able to deal with this coronavirus.
Watch for the layoffs.
Yeah.
Watch for the layoffs.
But that's what I'm saying. That's a part of that whole deal. So I just want us to, and look, last point here. Stop this bullshit saying black people can't catch it. Okay?
Yeah.
That's not true.
Yes.
Okay, I need y'all to stop that.
That's
nonsense.
going around.
I need y'all to stop that.
That is going around.
I need y'all to stop that, please.
I heard you say that
You a
on
damn
one of
lie.
your
You ain't
tweets.
never heard me say that. You ain't never heard me say something stupid like that about
Stop shaking hands after I
about
read your
this whole
tweet.
deal. Stop sitting here also saying people in Africa have not gotten it. I'm looking now. Ivory Coast has got their first confirmation.
Nigeria only has 5 cases.
Of coronavirus. Well, only 5 is still 5. All right, go to my phone here, folks. This here, MGM dropped this press release today, where MGM informed guests and employees at the Southern Nevada Health District has confirmed a case of the 2019 coronavirus involving a guest at the Mirage. We were informed that an individual from New York who was a guest at the Mirage and an attendee of the Women of Power Summit from March 5th through 8th, that's the Black Enterprise Summit, has tested positive for coronavirus. Upon learning of the individual's symptoms, Mirage staff worked in coordination with the state health district to implement MGM Resort's health and safety protocol. Professional cleaners with expertise in this area are deep cleaning and sanitizing the individual's room as outlined in the company's health and safety procedures and in accordance with the CDC guidelines for eliminating the presence of the virus. Now, folks, I told you what happened at CPAC. One individual who was in the proximity of a number of high-ranking people shaking hands tested positive for coronavirus. There was a priest here in Washington, D.C., shook the hands of 500 parishioners who tested positive. Now that church is on lockdown. And so you see what happens here. And so, y'all, do not shake hands. Do not shake hands. Please, all right? If you're around somebody and they're sitting here coughing, guess what? You can sit here and say, well, I'm coughing in my... No, the droplets, it hits the floor, it still circulates, it can hit on surfaces as well. So simply take all the precautions. All right, y'all got to go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little politics. Senator Bernie Sanders goes before the cameras to lay out what he is going to do next. And I got a couple of things to say to this sorry-ass New York State senator, this Latina, who had the audacity last night to say she didn't care about any candidate who won in a Democratic deep red state. Yeah, what she really saying is she got a problem that black folks didn't support Bernie Sanders. I'm gonna let y'all know who she is when we come back and let you know what I had to say about her last night. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Back in a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. So a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robbie don't have one on. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. And what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike other, because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website, and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, it goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. All right, y'all, the March 10th primary push Vice President Joe Biden closer to the Democratic nomination. On the other hand, Senator Bernie Sanders, lost Michigan, Missouri, Mississippi, and Idaho, and Washington State, a state where, first of all, he won North Dakota, but Washington State, where he beat Clinton by 40 points. By 40 points in 2016, he's only up 0.2% against Biden, with 67.5% of the vote in. Well, he did not speak last night, but today he held a news conference where many assumed he would bow out. I don't know what the hell they were thinking, because that was not going to happen. Sanders made it clear, I'm still in this thing.
Let me begin by reiterating what I have said from day one of this campaign, and that is that Donald Trump is the most dangerous president in the modern history of our country, and he must be defeated. Tragically, we have a president today who is a pathological liar and who is running a corrupt administration. He clearly does not understand the Constitution of the United States and thinks that he is a president who is above the law. In my view, he is a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, a xenophobe, and a religious bigot, and he must be defeated, and I will do everything in my power to make that happen. Last night, obviously, was not a good night for our campaign from a delegate point of view. We lost in the largest state up for grabs yesterday, the state of Michigan. We lost in Mississippi, Missouri, and Idaho. On the other hand, we won in North Dakota, and we lead the vote count in the state of Washington, the second largest state contested yesterday, with 67% of the votes having been counted. We are a few thousand votes on top. What became even more apparent yesterday is that while we are currently losing the delegate count, approximately 800 delegates for Joe Biden and 660 for us, we are strongly winning in two enormously important areas which will determine the future of our country. Poll after poll, including exit polls, show that a strong majority of the American people support our progressive agenda. The American people are deeply concerned about the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in this country, and the American people want the wealthy and large profitable corporations to start paying their fair share of taxes. Overwhelming support for that. The American people understand that the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. They want to raise the minimum wage in this country to a living wage of at least $15 an hour. And the American people understand that if our kids are going to make it into the middle class of this country, we must make public colleges and universities and trade schools tuition free. The American people understand that we cannot continue a cruel and dysfunctional healthcare system. And it is amazing to me to see that even in conservative states like Mississippi, there is an overwhelming understanding that we are now spending twice as much per capita on healthcare as do the people of any other country, while 87 million of us remain uninsured or underinsured. And this crisis, this absurd healthcare system, is becoming more and more obvious to the American people as we face the challenge of the coronavirus pandemic that we are currently experiencing. Imagine facing a pandemic and having 87 million people who are having a difficult time going to a doctor when they need.
All right, folks, let's talk about this here, okay? So, Lawrence, Sanders says, look, if you look at the polls where people are on these issues, but they're not voting for him. And so if you break this thing, it's just, and again, and what you have is, and somebody has to say it, and I ain't scared of none of y'all, okay? But the Bernie supporters, the folks who are losing their mind right now on YouTube, who are on Twitter, and who, oh, Biden's a sellout, he ain't done this, he ain't done that. This is very simple. If you run in against somebody, it's my ideas against your ideas. Whoever gets the most vote wins.
Yeah. Well,
and then you have these progressives who are saying, I'll play in a second, Crystal Ball, one of them. I'll play what she had to say. And I said this, maybe the progressives need to understand that there are actually more people who are not progressive than them.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a ceiling. Sanders clearly has a ceiling. He hit that ceiling. He actually hit it with Hillary Clinton as well, who I thought was not as good a candidate as Joe Biden. Okay, and not as compelling a candidate as Joe Biden, because I think Biden is likely to attract more voters than she will for a lot of reasons. One, unfortunately, of which is she's female. But at any rate, one of the things I think the Sanders supporters have a little trouble figuring out is that, in fact, that ceiling is real. It shows itself every time we have voters competing. I mean, these candidates competing for votes. Now that we don't have as many candidates in the field, and it's effectively Bernie Sanders versus Joe Biden, that's when you really see it, okay? So his numbers are not as good as they were against Hillary Clinton. We just saw that in Michigan last night. And he's not doing as well as he was, for whatever reason. And I think, frankly, and we've seen this in Kentucky and in Virginia and Alabama, people are laser-focused. People, meaning Team Blue, is laser-focused in getting Donald Trump out of office, okay? You probably could put almost any Democrat up there, but not any Democrat, because Sanders is not that Democrat. There is I think
He's not a Democrat at all.
Well, yeah,
He's a
whatever.
Democratic socialist when it's convenient to run for president.
The point is, if he did get the Democratic nomination, he effectively would be a Democrat, because he would be the Democratic nominee. I mean, I get it. I get it. But he's not going to be the Democratic nominee. No. It's going to be Joe Biden, and that's what's going to happen. So, I mean, the point is, he doesn't have enough votes. So I get what their arguments are, and actually, I think the Sanders people have a lot of good points.
They're not viable arguments.
They're talking, I don't know that they're not viable.
Elections is about one thing. Can you get one more vote than the next guy?
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
You can't buy votes.
Absolutely.
You can't steal votes. At least arguably, you can't steal votes.
They're doing a bigger thing. Their bigger thing is they want to talk about poverty and income inequality in a way that Biden won't talk about that.
I agree.
But at the end of the day, when those two names appear on the ballot, Trump, Biden, that's what this is going to be about. And
it's
so
a popularity contest.
This idea that Biden can't win is nonsense. It's total nonsense. Of course he can
and the movement's not big enough to win the nomination.
But
It's
wait a
not
minute.
big
But,
enough.
but also here's the piece though, and this is the thing that really bugs me. I mean, like like
Did you open your eyes?
No, you don't understand. It really bugs me. These folks want a movement to move like a moment. When moments actually lead to movements. Movements take time. If I talked about the Black freedom movement, some call the Civil Rights Movement, what we're now dealing with is December 1st, 1955. King's assassination, Fair Housing Act 9 days later, April 1968. That's 13 years. And that's not even the completion of the movement. That's like the core of the movement is 13 years. Sanders runs for president in 2015. It's 2020. It's 5 years. Oh my God! Didn't work. Oh my God! We're not gonna vote. I'm gonna leave the top blank. You know.
Well, the difference is they didn't have Donald Trump, who's a major factor in his movement.
No, but it's 5 years.
Urgency.
No, but the whole point I'm making is, in order to build a movement, what you have to do is stop bitching and whining, and stop. I'm gonna take my ball home because I didn't get what I want, and realize, you know what? We got to keep building. We got to keep organizing. Reverend William Barber, Moral Mondays. Moral Mondays started a decade ago.
Yep.
Let me, for all y'all Bernie people who are watching right now, pull your damn notepad out or your phone out and take some goddamn notes. Because, see, this is what's pissing me off with them. Moral Monday started when 16 people got arrested in the state capitol in North Carolina.
Right.
That thing built, hundreds, then thousands, then multiple thousands, they're all across the state. Republicans barred Reverend Barber from even coming to the state capitol. He sues. They're fighting. They're suing. They're going after them. They're suing. They're fighting. They file a state lawsuit, federal lawsuit. All that sort of stuff happened. Then they're sitting here, voter suppression, gerrymandering. North Carolina Republican Party is just sitting here passing stuff. Transgender bathroom bill, voter suppression, all this sort of stuff. Still fighting. Today, Roy Cooper, Democrat governor. Today, Democrats have a majority on the state Supreme Court, and they've invalidated most of those procedures. Today, Democrats, because they won the argument about racial gerrymandering, today, because of their fight, they actually got the political gerrymandering. Now you're going to see fair congressional districts. Now you're actually going to see more potential folks elected who support the Moral Monday issues and those who are against. That was 11 damn years. If they took the attitude of the Bernie people, I'm just going to stop. I ain't going to vote. I ain't going to vote. My God, I'm not going to vote. And that's what we're dealing with here. Movements take time to build. And if you believe in the issues, what you do is you say it for the day, get your ass up, dust yourself off, and say, we about to go back out there to organize and mobilize.
Right.
That is what is driving me crazy about these whiny-ass people who, I know, I got some black dude, I'm going to put his ass on the show. I'm voting for Trump because Bernie didn't win.
No.
No.
He ain't a real
No,
Bernie supporter.
But here's the deal. And I tweeted this.
Sure that was
How in the hell can you say you're a Bernie supporter?
And then go vote for Trump.
How? How can you say you're a Bernie supporter? And Trump is you just heard everything Bernie just said
You gonna vote for
about
him.
Trump. Your dumb ass say, I'm going to go vote for Trump, or I'm going to leave the top of the line blank because, you know what, they keep telling us we got to vote for any Democrat, so I'm just not going to vote at all. So you don't mind 4 more years of this.
Well, see, I think the reason that happened, though, in 2016 was they were under the stupid impression that Trump was reflecting some of Bernie's. With that sort of America First argument, and remember, Bernie was polling well against Trump, I think, for a reason. People wanted disruption. They wanted something different. But now we know, of course, for a fact that that was all nonsense. But I think it was nonsense then, and it was easy to recognize. But now we definitely know it's nonsense. And so now everybody's completely abandoned that idea.
Oh, no, I got Elijah James, Scott, right here. This ain't nothing but trying to shame black people into voting for Democrats. No, dumbass. This is all about, I got evil over here. I got a man over here who is against everything Bernie Sanders stands for. I got a man over here who is rolling back civil rights protections in every federal agency in the government. I got a man over here who's appointed nearly 200 federal judges, nearly all of them white men, far right wing, many of them grossly unqualified, who, if he wins another 4 years, likely will have appointed 500 federal judges that will be in control of federal judiciary for the next 50 years. So every progressive idea that you like, if it did get passed by Congress, would get sued. And guess who would hear the lawsuit? The 500 federal judges Trump is likely going to get. But I'm trying to get somebody to vote Democrat. No, I'm trying to get you not to vote for stupid.
Well, a no vote in the election is a vote for Trump. But here's the deal. I've always thought that this election in 2020, what was really working as kind of undergirding all of this is the vote for Biden is really a vote for stability. That we've had the Trump and the disruption, and the voters wanted the disruption, and we had 4 years of that. And now, I think the electorate, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, those people that vote at a higher rate, because let's not talk about the young, let's not forget the young people who are for Bernie aren't voting in the numbers they did 4 years ago, that the country wants stabilization. It wants some normalcy. It wants to get back to American values versus Trump values, and Trump values may be shared by that 40% that would vote for him no matter what. But America, black, white, yellow, or brown, wants to get back to what it's always been or what it's promised all of us to be. And under Trump, 4 years wears on you, and you start to believe, I don't care who you are, that you know what, this ain't right, and we may have lower taxes for corporations and the rich folks. We may have a big deficit, even though we don't have a rehabilitation plan or investing money to get the economy going again. That normalcy would sound good. And now, if we want a revolution, maybe we do our revolution later, but Bernie may not be around for that revolution in 8 years. And he's trying to do it this time.
But guess what,
He's never going to get voters like me, though.
Guess
and
what?
I make up most of the Democratic Party.
Is that?
Guess what? AOC.
Why isn't he ever going to get?
I'd love to have free college tuition, even though all my daughters are grown. I'd love to have, what's his other free?
But in a choice
Medicare
between
for
Trump
all.
and Bernie, who would you vote for?
As long as I had a choice, right?
Between Trump and Bernie, who would you vote for?
Well, I'd have to vote for Bernie.
Right.
But Bernie's not going to get the nomination.
I'm just saying, though.
And so,
No. First of all,
so
question asked, question answered. Derek, here's the thing that again.
Why are you cutting me off? I had more points to make.
Okay, first of all, you need to hurry the hell up.
For 20 minutes.
Derek, here's the whole deal. Here's the deal here that, again, when you begin to analyze this deal, and I'm going to go ahead and play this here. Henry, go ahead and go to my phone right here. So this is, let me put it on pause. So, y'all, this is Crystal Ball, co-host of the morning show on the Hill TV, on the Young Turks with Yank Uger. Both of them huge Bernie Sanders supporter. This is the kind of stupidity I'm talking about.
Word message moving forward.
But Crystal, I got to ask, what's our alternative? I mean, I don't think it's tenable for progressives to threaten to vote for Trump. I think that's nuts. I would never do that.
I would never vote for Donald Trump either, but you can leave it blank. As of today, I'm an undecided voter because here's the thing, Jake. Donald Trump is awful. The next Republican will be awful. And if they always can say, look, you've got to vote for us no matter what, you've got no other choice, then they're always going to treat us like this because you have no power in that situation if you're just going to show up and vote for them anyway. So I know people aren't going to want to hear that, but I think that is the reality of the situation that we face right now.
Crystal, you brought up really fast.
Derek, 2016, Eddie Glaude, who you see on MSNBC, made the exact same argument. We got to teach them a lesson, leave the top blank. I said, Eddie, you stood crazy as hell. I disagree with him then, and we were tweeting today. I said, I disagree with your ass now. And he said, we're all in this thing together about getting Trump out, not giving him 4 more years. I said, well, hell, Eddie, his ass should have had the first 4 years.
Right.
And I'm like, you were part of that problem. And part of the problem, and the thing is this here, black people more than anybody else, know you don't stop swinging. 1964, Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party goes to Atlantic City. They want to be seated. LBJ is like, look, y'all ain't getting away in my convention and my nomination. I got to win, got to keep the South together. Dr. King is standing with him. Fan Lou Hamer puts that purse on that table. She testifies. LBJ tells the head of the AFL-CIO, you tell King you're going to take all of his labor money out of the movement if he don't back this compromise. Dr. King had no choice because he knew without the labor money movement, wasn't no movement. He said, y'all take the deal. Bob Moses, Fan Lou Hamer, all of them were hurt by it. Went back home after that angry, but they ain't stop. And that's the point I'm saying. What you don't do is get so pissed off and angry that you stop and then you run home and say, I give up. No, you fight another day.
Well, or you give us Trump.
That's the problem with these privileged-ass millennials. That's just how they are.
Uh-oh.
Period. I said it. They all feel like
Look
they're
at the
privileged.
camera. Say it again.
They're privileged
Look at
ass
the camera.
millennials.
The Bernie Bros are going to be on you in a minute. In an hour, they're going to be on you.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. Give me my ball, I'm going home. Because everything ain't my way. And so they're going. This girl said it right there. And if Bernie's not on the ticket, I'm going to stay home. That's ridiculous. If your goal is to defeat this president.
It's illogical, too.
It's illogical.
It's illogical.
And if the goal is to defeat this man in office, then that's not going to win. That's not going to get you there. But that's Biden ain't going to beat Trump either.
You know, the other thing, because this is what you're saying.
I think Biden can defeat him. Go ahead.
You know what else may be at play? Because you talked about millennials. The millennials will always say to you, what are you going to do for the millennials, right?
Exactly.
With dripping with entitlement. And my generation, I'm at the end of the greatest generation, or the baby boomers. I'm right at that end. We've always asked, what can we do for whatever the movement or initiative is? And that's a very important distinction, because that mentality of entitlement means we owe them something.
Exactly.
And we don't owe them anything.
Exactly.
And you got to go get it if you want it. There are not enough progressives in the U.S. for Bernie to win or for those initiatives to take place.
Let me
They're not.
He's tapped out. He's maxed out with the
Let me different paradigm.
Go ahead, Lauren. Go ahead.
I just
Wait,
Lauren, go ahead.
In terms of what they've dealt with growing up historically. Obviously, the World War II generation had World War II, and the Vietnam generation had Vietnam. And I think it's a different paradigm, quite frankly, when your friends are dying. We have 58,000 Americans die in a war. We have, friends of yours at 18, 19 years old who are losing their life. The millennials haven't really had to deal with that type of life and death issue. Their biggest issues have been economic, like affordability for college, et cetera. And I think that changes the game. When your mortality is standing in front of you and you've got decisions to make based on that, that's a lot different than previous.
Nor did they go through the civil rights movement.
Right.
They didn't go through the civil rights movement.
That's right.
Really interesting dynamic and difference.
Let me say this, and I'm real clear. That is, every generation has his own issues, what he wants to focus on. What I don't do is millennials, y'all this, y'all that. This is very simple for me. This is extremely simple, and this applies to Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers. This applies to every voting bloc. Get your ass up and vote.
Period.
Let me be clear, y'all.
That's it.
That is not an attack on any generation. What I am arguing is, if you want to do something, if you want to see something change, you got to get it. What can't happen, which is where I thought you were going, what can't happen is and I've seen these tweets on my timeline. Y'all not taking into account us. Yes, I am. Is us voting.
There you go.
See, here's what can't happen.
Yep.
You can't look to me as a Gen Xer and tell me that I need to take you into account but you don't vote.
But you don't do nothing.
So what you're really saying is, you want me to stand my ass in line.
And carry it for you.
What you're saying is, you want me to show up in the primary and in the general to vote, so you don't. Now, let me be real clear. I am not saying that millennials and Gen Z did not vote. That's not, they did vote. When you look at the numbers, when you look at the available number of Gen Z and millennial, making up 40% of the population, I think those were the numbers. It's one of the numbers I heard, 40%. But making up in some states 6 and 8% of the total electorate, what that means is you're not maximizing your power. So you can't ask somebody else to fight my battle if I ain't trying to fight. And that just don't make any sense.
I think the numbers actually are not that bad. I think they're capped at, 24 years old. And their two biggest issues seems to be health insurance and college affordability.
What numbers are not bad?
Climate change,
voting for young people.
No, the numbers are bad.
Yeah.
I think they're not that
No,
bad.
they are bad.
They're not.
No,
that,
if you look
voting numbers are bad across the board.
I'm talking about.
People don't
I'm talking about
participate.
the number of people turn out to vote. In terms of that 18 to 30 category, 18 to 30 category, it's been like 6, 8, 10
They don't
of
show
the
up.
total electorate.
You mean
and so the problem,
statewide or national?
No. I'm talking about when in each one of these states. If you go look at those exit polling numbers. So here's the problem. So the problem is you bitching about older voters, but older voters are voting at this level.
Yeah.
But then you're like, but
there, yeah.
right. But the problem is demographic numbers are here. So take youth out of the deal. It's the same thing I've been saying to Latinos for a decade. Don't come in with your demographic numbers. Then look at your voting numbers. So your demographic numbers are, we make up this. But this your demographic numbers, but your vote numbers here. And I keep saying to Latinos, you are never going to be able to maximize your demographic numbers until you maximize your vote numbers.
And this is why black voters are the most important voters, because we show the hell up.
Yes.
Every single time. And we show the hell up over 90% for the Democratic Party.
Right. And so what I'm trying to get
demographics are, to me, really sort of meaningless.
So what I'm trying to get young voters to understand is, ain't nobody gonna save you but you. But you can't keep saying to the 65, you ain't shit because you voted for Biden, but your ass didn't vote.
And Biden won.
The bottom line is here. This election would look totally different if the young folks who say, I'm with Bernie, showed up. Bernie, let me just go ahead and cut it. Bernie Sanders thought they were going to show up. Bernie's entire deal was, I can turn out young voters, disaffected voters, especially disaffected white voters. He was 0 for 3.
Yeah. Well, that splits in half. I mean, the white vote splits in half.
No.
Red and blue.
No, it does not split in half. It does not split in half. Since 1964.
Yeah,
Since
it's decreased.
No.
It's decreased.
Not even decreased.
We know that.
Since 1964, no Dems got more than 39% of the white vote.
What did white women do with Trump?
No.
What did white women do?
No. Listen, no. Follow me here. It's not half and half. It's not half and half. No Democrat since 64 has gotten more than 39% of the white vote.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, Bernie was saying, my message can bring out disaffected white voters. What I'm saying is, there's absolutely no data that shows that actually happened. So one of the reasons why he's losing is because he banked on this group to turn out and pretty much ignored that group, and that group didn't turn out.
What group did he ignore?
But he promises that movement. He promises that movement would bring others along.
No, what did he ignore? I'm serious.
What do you mean?
What did Bernie ignore? I'm just asking.
What did he ignore?
Yeah, I'm just asking. Relax. What group did he ignore?
Really?
Black America.
Yeah, really.
Bernie Sanders.
No, when you said
his
the
numbers for
disaffected
black
white,
people?
I'm talking about for white. I know he ignored black vote.
No. Bernie Sanders ignored 45 plus. Bernie Sanders tried to build a movement that was driven by 18 to 35.
Right, okay.
And that sounded great.
Right.
But the problem is, if you don't bring them out,
Yeah.
Hey.
I think what he was actually trying to do was sort of channel, you know, most of the country, which is middle class and lower middle class. He's trying to do a poverty thing. And I just, at the end of the day, the powers that be, and I'm not trying to suggest the establishment stopped him. I'm not getting into that. But I do think that that's a conversation that's very hard to have in the Democratic Party.
But he couldn't get the 45 and olders to join this movement that had all this energy, because his movement theory was, I excite the base.
Right.
They're young. They can be black or white.
Right.
I got young independents, but they can join and we'll come along and we'll transform not only the party, but we can beat Trump.
Well,
that hasn't happened yet.
I went to a Sanders rally 2 weeks ago in Richmond, Virginia, and there were a tremendous number of young people there. I was really surprised at that.
Okay.
I mean, you can't really,
But
from
they're
the
not
voting.
voting.
No, wait.
They're
Hold on.
coming
No,
to
no,
the
no,
rally.
wait.
What?
What'd you say?
I said there was a tremendous number of young people there in Richmond.
Where?
Richmond, Virginia.
Where?
Richmond. It was
Virginia.
At a what?
It was at a
Rally.
It was a rally.
Right. It was at a rally.
Yeah.
Did it translate to the voting box?
I guess not.
That's my point.
I'm just saying. There were a lot of young people there.
No,
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it translated into anything.
But that's precisely my point.
Okay.
My point is one.
I mean,
here's
we're
what
talking a universe of 120 million people. So I get that one rally does not translate into 60 million voters.
I am taking your one rally and now I'm extrapolating that.
I know, but I'm not extrapolating.
No, I am.
I'm just saying.
I am.
I'm just saying it was one rally in Richmond. That's all I'm saying.
I am. No, I am, because here's why. Because here's why.
Stop.
No, I am. No. I am, because here's why. All of Bernie's, a lot of Bernie's people, and especially a lot of people in the media, my God, look at it's 7,000 at a rally. It's 9,000.
We did that with Obama. We did do that.
No. Hold up.
Yeah, we did.
First of all, hold up.
No. We were
First
like,
of all,
oh my God.
No.
Obama
Obama didn't have 79,000 at a rally. He had 100,000 in Oregon.
Right.
That was a whole different ball. No, but follow me here. Let me finish the other point. They were like, oh my God, Joe Kane put in 500 people in the room.
Yeah, we did do that. I mean,
right, and so
but excitement does mean something.
No. Follow me here.
Energy does mean something.
No. Follow me here. But my point is this here: you can have 7,000 at a rally,
right?
But will 70,000 show up at the polls? And the problem is you got to get them.
Yeah.
What Reverend Barber and the Poor People's Campaign and what they've been doing, what they have not been doing is sitting here going, y'all need to discuss poverty. They've not been having them meetings in Washington, D.C., and just going to the DNC and the RNC. You know where they've been? Idaho.
Right.
Kansas. They've been going to North Carolina. They've been in, they've been in Idaho. They had 1,000 folks at a Jewish temple in Los Angeles. They've been all around the country. They've been going to places where nobody, Democrat or Republican, shows up.
Right.
Because what he understood with Moral Mondays in November is, I can't just talk about what somebody should be talking about. You got to go to the people and mobilize and organize. And in fact, somebody even asked him, they said, there were 2,500 people at this event and you weren't even a speaker.
Right.
And he said, well, that's the point.
Right.
We shouldn't have to get 2,500 showing up just because I'm showing up. And that's what I'm trying, I need these Bernie people to understand, that if you want to actually build the movement, you got to build, B-U-I-L-D, which means that you've got to do that. If you say we need to take our progressive values and we need to take it state to state, city to city, county to county, town to town, neighborhood to neighborhood, block by block, street by street, house by house, that's how you build movements. You don't build movements on Twitter. You don't build movements just talking about it. You've got to actually do it. And then once you talk to them and you got them, now you got to get the second step, you got to get them registered. Now, after you get them registered, you got to get them to the primary. Then after the primary, you got to get them to the general. It's a 4-step process. It's not, hey, we got a rally. Hope to see y'all on Tuesday. We good.
But if those young people who are his core supporters won't vote in the numbers he needs, he's not going to be able to convince others like me and who are more moderate voters to join the movement. You got to keep winning to join the movement, to get someone like me to join the movement and others.
I don't know that it's an age.
just not
you know
what?
Demographics.
I ain't got to get.
No, it's not age.
No, it's not.
It's
demographics.
whether you're
Actually, you know what? No.
moderate or conservative
I ain't got
Democrat.
to get you to join.
What you got to get me to do?
If this group over here, Derek, has a larger block of people, and if I focus on mobilizing and organizing this group, I can overwhelm you. The problem is if I don't mobilize and organize this group, and I'm hoping they turn out, you can whip my ass every single time because you like, yo, that ain't gonna happen.
Right.
Derek, that's just real basic.
It's real basic, guys, but I think, too, something else that we haven't talked about. His policies. It just didn't make sense for America, period. And we talk about the voter not showing up, the younger voter, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, they probably didn't. The older voter, though, you look at some of the stuff that Bernie Sanders putting out, it just don't make sense. Even some of the stuff that Biden is talking about.
What do you mean, like paying for Medicare for all?
No.
Or paying
if
for
I
free
may,
college
Scott
tuition?
Bolden,
I want you to get to your point. Get to your point.
Last week, I testified, was invited back to give witness testimony before the House Natural Resources Committee for a hearing for H.R. 5435, put out for by Representative Geraldo from Arizona. This piece of legislation seeks to remove every job in the oil and gas industry by 2032. How in the hell are we going to do that? How is that even possible?
Well, what was in the bill? You went to support it or oppose it.
I went to oppose it.
Okay.
That's the main thing. The bill is the American Land and Water American Public Land, Water, and Climate Change Act solution.
All right.
That's not a solution.
Yeah, but there are a lot of high-paying green jobs that would come
Scott,
from
we
that.
cannot. You cannot change the industry overnight.
I don't think the bill wants
First of all,
to do that.
I'm sorry.
Carve out a building.
Hold up.
Y'all not gonna tell me.
Wait.
Y'all go read the bill.
Wait, but hold up.
Go read the bill. I'm telling you what it
Did
said.
you just say by 2032?
2032, that's 12 years from now.
Well, that ain't
You
over-
cannot
that ain't
change
overnight.
This industry in
That ain't
12
overnight.
years.
That's not overnight.
It took 100 years to get here. It is not going to change in 12.
Well,
100 years to
If y'all
stay
believe
here.
that, then I got some
Well,
some beachfront property for you in Montana. If y'all believe that
Here's the
shit.
deed.
Believe it.
Here's what I know.
That's why this shit ain't working, because they
Here's
put
what
forth that kind of
here's
crap.
what I know. What I know is real simple.
And I know.
And that is that. What I'm saying is just this.
Bernie Sanders has a likability factor too that bars him from.
I'm not even.
success.
I'm not even gonna go down the whole likability.
That's not a rabbit hole. That's a reality.
All I'm saying is this here.
He's definitely has
This is
somebody
very
working with
simple.
him.
You have to be able to move people to act and to vote. Now, let me do this here, y'all. I gotta deal with this here. So last night I was on Twitter, and there's this state senator out of New York. Y'all, her name is Julia Salazar. And I was lighting that ass up last night. Now, what she also has done, y'all, she deleted a bunch of these tweets. But basically what she did is she tweeted that she didn't want to hear nothing about any candidate who won in the Democratic primary from a deep red state. And that's why I'm sitting here looking for some of the tweets that she sent out, because it was very problematic for me what she was sending out. And what was interesting is that, y'all, at one point she even criticized Mike Espy, because Mike Espy was one of the folks who endorsed Joe Biden. And so she was really in her feelings last night because of this. And let me find this tweet. Like I said, no, because she mad because Bernie didn't win.
Okay.
So go to my pad. To be clear, I mean the presidential primary, which I do not associate with other federal Democratic primaries because in my state they're 2 months apart. But Espy also endorsed Joe Biden, so I also don't care much what his political commentary is. Okay, that's one thing that she said. I'm trying to find now. Just so y'all know, come back to me. Just so y'all know, the problem is she went and deleted a whole bunch of. That's why her tweets are not. She deleted a whole bunch of tweets. But she said, "I don't care about any Democrat who wins the presidential primary in a deep red state." Why is that problematic? Because really, what she is saying is, we ain't gonna win them states in November anyway. So why we even listen to the people who vote in these deep red states? Because they're not gonna matter. Okay, that's really what she's saying. Okay, now what she's really saying is, all y'all black folks don't really give a damn what y'all think. This was the exact same. There were white Bernie supporters who were saying this very same thing in 2016. And the reason that offended me when she said, well, she don't care about Mike Espy's political commentary. How your ass a Democratic state senator and avowed socialist, but you say you support Democratic policies, but then you gonna shit on Mike Espy, but you need the Senate.
Right.
Hal Cunningham is running against Tom Tillis in North Carolina. That's the South. You could beat Tom Tillis and pick up his seat, but you don't give a damn about deep red states and who wins Democratic primary. You've got Doug Jones, who's either going to face crazy-ass Tommy Tuberville or Jeff Sessions in Alabama, but you want to shit on southern states. Mike Espy lost to Sidney Highsmith by 68,000 votes in 2018. If you actually mobilize people, you can actually win that because of the number of black people who were eligible but who did not vote and the number of broke-ass white folks who want them rural hospitals, but if you actually cared. Now you got a runoff. Royce West, state senator, might be running for the Senate in Texas. John Cornyn, numbers a week. Deep red state. So what, you don't care about that as well? I can go down the line. But this is what happens when you are a short-sighted, ignorant Sanders supporter, where you so pissed off that what you want to do is, and let's just put all the chips in the middle of the table. There are Bernie Sanders supporters who are pissed off at black people in South Carolina because that's who revived the campaign of Joe Biden. They had Joe Biden on the ropes. They had him sweating, heart palpitations. His career, he was like Lazarus needing Jesus to come and blow some breath into his body. And black people in South Carolina blew some breath into Joe Biden's body, and Bernie supporters are mad as hell. So don't sit, and then she's like, well, no, y'all know I'm not talking about people who fought for the right to vote. Damn that. If you shit on black people who voted for Joe Biden in Mississippi, you shitting on Fannie Lou Hamer. You shitting on Bob Moses. You shitting on the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party. All these black people who fought all these years to make it possible, but you're sitting your narrow ass in New York State, okay, where you comfortable in Brooklyn, but you ain't. Not only that, Democrats could pick up a damn U.S. Senate seat in Georgia. 2 up. But you want to shit on deep red southern states by saying, I don't give a damn who wins the primary down there, when the turnout in the primaries could affect who comes out and wins in the general. But you got folks like this who put that nonsense out on Twitter, and then, well, y'all.
Or did she block
y'all, the hell no, she ain't blocked me. Y'all ain't support my person, Bernie. But then you want to trash people from the South who living in places knowing full well they're Republican legislatures, but they still fighting their ass off. But you want to blow them off because you don't like it because they ain't support Bernie.
Given what Abrams did in Georgia, and given what given Kentucky,
did you tell him all this?
Stop. Go.
Given Kentucky and what Abrams did in Georgia, and given Alabama,
and given
Virginia,
a Democratic governor in Louisiana.
And Virginia, in Louisiana, that's right. You would think that the thinking would be quite different, but everything that you just said is just really just a reflection of what many liberal Democrats do all the time, which is really sort of disregard. You know, black people are here to help us get in power. Black people are here to help us go forward. We don't want you running anything. We don't want you in control of anything. You're to help us get to where we want to go. And your issues don't matter. Meanwhile, you're supposed to help us with our shit. Okay, that's the other thing.
I tweeted last night, I said, because this woman, and not only that, she's a member of the Black Puerto Rican Latino caucus in the New York State Assembly. I spoke 2 years ago at the New York, at their, her name is State Senator Julia Salazar. And the reason I'm spending the time to call her out, Scott, is because the problem here is this is why Democrats have not done well in the South, because they blow it off. We ain't got no chance of winning. If Stacey Abrams did not bust her ass to register those people, find them, guess what? That state wouldn't be in play.
Right.
North Carolina, if black folks did not mobilize and organize and stop the Republicans in the last 10 years, North Carolina had one of the lowest voting participation numbers in the damn country.
And they got
when they
Jamie
changed
Harrison.
their laws, and then 2008 rolled around, Obama won North Carolina by 14,100 votes. They went from the bottom to the top 5, and the Republicans said, oh, hell no, we ain't gonna have this, and they changed the laws there. And so it offends me as a native Texan, okay, who I'm watching what's happening in Texas, again, for this dumbass state senator.
Right.
When you have 500,000 new people moving to Texas every single year, the suburbs in Texas have changed. Republicans are freaking the hell out in Texas. Dallas County, where Dallas is, used to be a deep red county. Now it's a deep blue county.
Most of them come from California.
Right. And see, here's what I love about it. The Republican governors, Rick Perry and Abbott, they keep going to California, recruiting the companies, saying, bring y'all business to Texas, not realizing they bring in Democratic voters. But when you trash the decision of, and what she's really saying is, y'all don't count. We should only be listening to the blue states, because we ain't gonna win y'all in November. So who y'all pick? And so it offends her with the delegates in these southern states.
It's not smart either. The courts have been looking at voter suppression in these red states, and we've been winning a lot. Secondly, there are a lot of states in the South, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, these Senate races, which is, in my opinion, more important in some circumstances than the presidential race. Absolutely. They're competitive. I mean, Amy McGrath in Kentucky is running a strong race. Senator Graham in North Carolina, South Carolina.
Jamie Harrison.
South Carolina.
Running a hard race and strong race and running neck and neck in the polls. And I know that's just a snapshot, but the red states are in play.
Got a shot.
You have over 100,000 potential Democratic votes from the legislation in Florida for those who are returning citizens. There's a lot to look at, a lot to play with, and a lot to believe in these red states that the Dems have a shot because of African Americans. We cannot forget that.
I'm not going to let nobody, white or Latino, trash black people from the South for having the audacity to vote in an election and say that this is who we want for. Because you know what? If this election was based on white folks in Iowa and New Hampshire, right now, Buttigieg would be leading, Klobuchar would be at the top, and guess what? They be getting crushed everywhere else. But you got folks, because they support Sanders, now you all mad. Yo, guess what? Somebody gonna lose in an election. As simple as that. So
I'm gotta win. Just go win.
But what you're not gonna do.
But what you're not gonna do.
You're not gonna shit on black people.
Okay.
That's what you're not going to do.
You're gonna say, well, I ain't really talking about y'all. Yes, you are. We ain't foolish. All right, y'all. Man, I hate to report this story. Houston Megachurch pastor Reverend Kirbyjohn Caldwell pastors Windsor Village United Methodist Church, the largest church in the United Methodist Church, pleaded guilty today after being accused of defrauding people of millions using phony bonds. He was indicted 2 years ago in federal court on wire fraud and money laundering charges. Caldwell and his investment advisor partner, Gregory Smith, sold nearly $3.5 million in worthless pre-revolutionary Chinese bonds to the elderly and vulnerable investors. Both men face years in federal prison if convicted. Well, first of all, they pled guilty. And already, as a part of the plea deal, Kirbyjohn Caldwell has to pay back a fine of $250,000. He's going to pay back nearly $2 million to investors before the sentencing take place, and is going to face anywhere from 5 to 7 years in prison, forfeit a home that he also owns in Houston. And so a lot of folks were shocked. No, that ain't my church. No. I'm from Houston. I'm at Church Without Walls. I've spoken at Windsor Village. I've known Kirbyjohn Caldwell for years. Many people, of course, when he was indicted, I just read the damn story. What the hell? Were you not paying attention? I'm not even done reading the story. So he was indicted 2 years ago, folks, and many folks were actually shocked and stunned when it happened, because here's somebody who went to Wharton, graduated from the Wharton School of Business, worked at First Boston, worked on Wall Street, wrote financial books, sat on the board of Continental Airlines, but man, pled guilty today in federal court in Shreveport, Louisiana, in this investment scam.
What would he say? I mean, what was his defense of this, if at all?
I'm sorry.
Didn't read that.
First of all, when you plead guilty, there is no defense.
Well, there were statements made before that, and of course, there's always a defense.
No. And
his
his initial defense was, I'm going to be found not guilty, and he hired Dick DeGuerin to be his attorney. But when his co-defendant flipped and pled guilty on July 23rd, 2019.
There's the backstory.
Well, yeah, but guess...
You didn't read that.
But no, but I didn't have to. Because guess what?
That.
If when you plead guilty...
It don't matter.
You guilty.
Nothing else really matters.
So, right. So, you don't have a defense when you plead guilty. And so, speaking of guilty, today, Harvey Weinstein sentenced to 23 years in prison in a New York State. He was convicted of committing a criminal sexual act in the first degree and third degree rape. He'll also be formally registered as a sex offender. His team says they will appeal the jury's decision to convict him on 2 of the 5 charges he faced. But, folks, he's not out of trouble. He, of course, is facing charges in Los Angeles as well. Lauren, 6 of the women who testified accused him of sexual assault were in the courtroom today. Some were cheering, some were crying. 23 years, that's a long damn time for somebody. And his lawyers say he may die in prison. Many others say so.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he should have gotten a substantial amount of time for what he did. It was a surprising case and a landmark case in that I think it was Cy Vance who said that we no longer need evidence. I don't want to misquote him, but there was something to the effect.
Right, which was sort of like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of need evidence.
We kind of do need evidence. But, I do think that the prosecution did come perilously close to blowing this case. I mean, they were very lucky that we live in the age that we live in terms of Me Too. In terms of paying attention to these types of crimes, but they came very close to overplaying their hand a little bit. And Donna Rotunno was a very good defense attorney for Harvey Weinstein. She probably does have a point with regard to factual data with regard to the length of sentence, because I think the length of sentence is a little bit longer than what people usually get.
We're not on the federal sentencing guidelines, so it's a state guideline, so they may get away with that.
But frankly, Annabella Sciorra, the use of the Molyneux witnesses, a lot of that detail was very interesting and very unprecedented. It would not surprise me if on appeal something strange happened. They had a problem. They had a problem with 2 jurors, and I thought a fairly serious problem with one of the jurors. But I think at the end of the day, sort of the same thing I thought about Cosby in terms of you felt like this person is guilty, but what plays out in court often is not proven. In the case of Weinstein, you feel this person is definitely guilty, but the case, the details, the arguments, and the level of proof and the reasonable doubt seemed to be there. And it was sort of interesting to really watch the details of that.
In legal terms, what was problematic about the case and what you're kind of putting your finger on is that prior relationships, cases like sex and domestic violence cases, if there's a prior relationship, those are the toughest cases to prosecute. That's
and one of the women who testified said that he raped her, but they continue to have a consensual relationship
for several years.
Jessica Mann, I think that
was. Jessica Mann.
He got 20 years. He got 3 years, so a total of 23 plus 5 years probation. That'll certainly be appealed. Oh, and I'm sorry. They're running that concurrently, not consecutively, right?
Okay,
so that'll subject
for the person out there listening, explain that.
That means he's got to serve 20 years, and then he's got to serve 3. And when he gets out, if he's still with us, then he's got to do 5 years probation. And so that's 28 years of being on papers, if you will. That'll probably be appealed also. The other part that'll be appealed is that this, what we call evidence of other bad acts or crimes, which are carve-outs for hearsay. That is, okay, I brought 3 counts from 3 women who said this happened, right? Those charges and trial should have been bifurcated, but they weren't. Then they brought in a few other women who they say committed bad acts, and they were brought in by the prosecution to show, and the judge let them do this to show that it wasn't a mistake, that it had higher probative value than the prejudicial impact on the jury. I.e., if he did these bad acts to these 3 women, he certainly did these bad acts and rapes and assaults of the 3 women that are subject of the charges. So that'll probably be appealed too. We'll just have to see. This is quintessential Me Too movement. This is at the heart of it, if you will. And the jury has spoken, juries have spoken, but they certainly have been impacted by the media and the Me Too movement, and that's a good thing, if you will. But we're no better with Me Too and having women not suffer in silence if individuals are prosecuted or over-prosecuted and there's an injustice within that trial. And so we have to be very careful. We can applaud the conviction and the sentencing, but we cannot violate justice and the rights of these individuals, for then we're no better than what their bad acts were.
Derek, bottom line
Got to
here,
be really clear.
This man was accused by.
Did he interrupt me again?
Actually, no. It's called ending your comment. That's what happens. 24 different women accused him of all sorts of different things like this. He still faces charges in Los Angeles.
Yeah. First of all, I'm with Cosby. That's because I just.
What do you mean?
What do you mean you're with Cosby?
Anyway,
He should not have been convicted?
Anyway, so
Wait
the
a
man.
minute.
No, was that?
Wait,
No,
wait,
was that?
wait,
Giving
I
them
just
drugs?
think there was some.
He should not have had sex with them after giving them drugs? Is that what you're supporting?
Let me finish. I think,
Hold on, I'm trying to get to the point.
First of all, if you stood up, let him finish. Go ahead.
I think there was some. I just think there was some problems with his trial too. I think things could have gone differently. That's all I'm saying.
The other women
Okay,
were
I
brought
got
up
it.
for bad acts
Right.
as well.
I got it.
That's
Go
what
ahead. Now
that's
finish
the
your point
only
about
point I wanted to make.
Weinstein. Go ahead.
But Weinstein, I'm glad to see he was convicted because it went on for a long time. But Scott, I do agree with you. You know, if there's a sentencing guideline that needs to be followed, then we should look to that as opposed to just sentencing this man just based
Well, there are
off
some
of-
state sentencing guidelines. I'm just not as familiar.
I mean,
with
But the bottom line is, it gotta
Lauren.
go.
I think that, you know, again, it's another one of these moments where you know this person is guilty, and yet you
called
watch the court
prejudicial
case.
effect.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the court case,
Right.
but you don't see the actual. And when Cy Vance made the comment about, you know, well, we don't need evidence in these cases, who that will end up hurting later on are the
Right.
people who don't have the money to hire people like Donna Rotunno.
Right.
So the poor defendant that gets accused of something that they can't disprove.
what Cy Vance
Real
may or
quick,
may not
real
be
Cy
quick.
Vance
problem.
was saying was they're going to try cases where it's his word against her word or vice versa versus delaying it and looking for additional, stronger corroborating evidence. That's what he said. Testimony is evidence, right? They're not going to exactly sit on it simply because they don't have any corroborating evidence. And that's a policy change
All right,
for his
folks.
office.
Chicago,
Yes, it is.
Alderman Greg Mitchell was furious that a developer who plans to convert a historic office building into a 349-room hotel does not have any plans to include minorities in the $137 million project. The City Council's Economic Development Committee approved the property tax break needed to pave the way for the preservation and rehabilitation of the building that once served as the downtown headquarters of the City Colleges of Chicago. Mitchell threatened to hold up the tax break in the full City Council if the developer doesn't come up with a specific plan for minority participation by the March 18th meeting. Okay, Derek, here's what's interesting about this. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, this guy rarely talks, never really says anything. This absolutely pissed him off. I mean, he went off and people kind of like, damn.
Right. I can just tell you, man, just years ago, I was a small contractor, 8A on GSA schedule. And so, you know, you look for those opportunities to come your way as a small business owner. And so most of the time when you have these contracts that are set, there should be set-asides, especially when it comes to construction contracts, that should go to minorities.
Okay, and again, they have set-asides there in Chicago. This developer's like, no, we good. And it literally could not answer. He said, what's your plan? He could have answered, he said, no, you're not going to come in front of this and you have no plan whatsoever. I mean, and this is the only, Lauren, this is the only way, when you talk about African Americans and economic power, this is where Maynard Jackson understood it. The 3 Bs, the ballot, the book, as well as the buck. How you use political power to create economic opportunities. And the bottom line is here, if you do not have black aldermen forcing this to happen, these white developers will come in there, keep building, never have to give any contracts whatsoever, and this is the game.
Yeah, but that big.
Lauren, hold on. Lauren did there. But
No, it's true. You got to watch the money. Obviously, where the money goes, where the money allocated, and who gets the opportunities to make that money is the whole ball game. And Maynard Jackson did understand that. And so many African American politicians do not understand that. And as we know, Marion Barry, of course, had the summer jobs program and literally put money into the pockets of young people all over Washington, D.C. People still remember that because those kids, of course, were helping their families pay the rent. So, yeah, that was huge.
Well, Marion
That was
Barry, let me tell you something else. Marion Barry built downtown D.C. with the white developers, but he also built Black Wall Street, if you will. Black bankers who were involved in public and private finance. He put them on the deals. He was highly conscious of the buck and the box and whatever Roland said. He was
okay.
quite
There were
conscious
3
of-
B's from Maynard Jackson's
I knew
grandfather.
2 of
The ballot, the book, and the buck.
Exactly. Now the problem is how
And
many
Maynard
black
Jackson wasn't
mayors?
alpha. Clearly, Kappas don't know.
How many black mayors in the top 10 urban cities of this country have the courage to enforce those set-asides or those local business enterprises to make sure they get their fair share?
And that's why
I would say none
It
of them.
starts with Lori
Black
Lightfoot.
aldermen
It
are
doesn't
putting the
start with
pressure.
them.
Right.
It doesn't start
Right. They're
with the
putting the
council.
pressure on the new mayor, Lori Lightfoot,
Exactly.
who's black, to say,
Exactly.
hey, don't just be supporting this and you ain't making sure.
'Cause she signed off on this
There you
deal.
go.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. The bid, whoever that bid came from, it should have had that in there already. We shouldn't even have this conversation.
Well, I'm glad to see all of them. We're going to try and get them on the show, talk more about this here, y'all, real quick. Johnson Publishing Company,
I
of
can
course,
get
you
him.
know,
He's
they
a
filed for
capo.
bankruptcy, reached a $500,000 settlement in a defamation lawsuit brought by the family of 2 Georgia high school students who said they were falsely implicated in the death of a black student in a series of articles published by Ebony Magazine. FBI agent Richard Bell and his wife Karen filed a $5 million defamation lawsuit against the now bankrupt Johnson Publishing Company for articles they allegedly indirectly linked their son to the death of Kendrick Johnson, the black young man who was found lifeless inside a rolled-up gym mat at his high school. Now, state medical examiners concluded that the death of 17-year-old Johnson was accidental asphyxiation after he became trapped while trying to retrieve a shoe that fell into the large mat. Ebony subsequently ran a series of articles suggesting Johnson's death was no accident and pointed an accusatory finger. Now, and here's what's interesting, y'all. They didn't actually appoint, okay, now this is the weirdest thing. They didn't accuse the brothers of this. What they did is, so the brothers are Brandon and Brian Bell. They created 2 other people who were fictitious, whose dad was an FBI agent. Okay, that's just nuts. Now, Brandon and Brian will receive $500,000 payment from the Johnson Publishing Company insurance company under the terms under the proposed settlement, which is scheduled for a March 31st hearing in Chicago Bankruptcy Court. If approved, it will settle all claims by the Bell family against Johnson Publishing. Okay, so here's the problem I have here.
What do you mean they created a fictitious?
No.
It was an FBI agent.
No, literally, in these articles,
Right.
they created these 2 brothers,
Right.
okay, whose last name was Martin.
I faintly remember this.
And it was like, because there were like a number of articles published over a
Right.
period. So they created this article.
Ebony created it?
The writer created these fictitious brothers whose dad was an FBI agent. In real life, there are 2 brothers who went to the school whose dad is an FBI agent. The dad and the family was like, hell, y'all talking about us.
Right.
I'm just trying to understand, how the hell does a fictitious character get created in a real news story?
I'll tell you, I'll answer that one for you. Journalism is now infiltrated by a bunch of people who are not journalists, right? And they show up at these publications and they're writing a lot of opinion and feelings and all this, and they're not really getting down to the basics of journalism, which is the pyramid, system of who, what, when, where, and why.
But what editor allows that?
How do you know the editor was a journalist? I mean, a lot of these news organizations, you know how this is. This is why there's been arguments about having journalistic licenses and this, that, which I've actually resisted because, the Constitution basically covers the press in a way that would probably not allow that. But this is a moment where you say to yourself, maybe we should have licenses for journalists.
And it's costing them $500,000.
Okay, but see, you all you're looking at it through a journalistic prism. I'm not familiar with the article.
Really? Hold on. I'm sorry.
Legal reality.
I'm sorry. So journalists will look at it through a journalism prism. I would think a lawyer would look at it through a legal prism.
Yeah.
Damn, really, Scott?
So let me add some reality to your discussion.
Now go ahead.
Now go ahead. Let me clear my throat.
Go ahead.
Okay. If these are kids and they're under 18, and they're subject of an investigation or suspects in an investigation, I could easily see a newspaper or publication using fictitious names as long as you're advising the reader that these are fictitious names.
But they should have just reported that they were being investigated.
Scott,
They were.
Scott,
I mean,
Scott,
why
Scott,
are we,
And I haven't
why
seen
are we-
articles,
Scott,
but you can
Scott.
use fictitious names as long as you
Yeah,
advise
but
the
this is
public
not fiction.
of it.
No.
If they're under 18, you cannot use their name back then. You couldn't.
Actually,
Yeah, you can.
actually, you can.
You can. You absolutely
Actually, you can.
You could use their name. They're under 18,
Actually, yes.
and they're targets of an investigation.
Yes,
Oh,
you
yes,
can.
You could.
Yes, you can. Take it from the
can?
damn journalists who've been doing it.
Well, I've never been a
Yes.
journalist, but I've been a lawyer a long time.
Well, you damn
And I
sure ain't
gotta
been a
tell you,
journalist.
yeah,
and
but-
what you
but
don't
I've
do
had some
is
press
you do
cases
not
like that.
you do not
You could
write
not
a
do
story.
that.
You do not write a story where you're using real details in 99% and go, oh, by the way, here, wait a minute.
What
here,
about in a rape case? You don't publish the woman, the victim's name.
That's a policy thing.
I understand.
Excuse
But
me.
what's this?
Excuse me.
But you could have a
excuse
fictitious
me.
name.
Different news
Excuse me. No.
Different news
If you do not
policy.
publish the name of the individual, you do not create a false name. What you will say is, we are not publishing the name of the rape victim. In the story, you say the accuser. What you don't say is, here is Brian Bell, but I'm going to create Christopher Martin, a fictitious name. No, I'm going to create a fictitious name whose dad happens to be an FBI agent. Am I writing a novel or a news story?
Well, I was going to raise that too. Was this a real news story
Yes.
or a novel?
Yes, it was a real news story.
I'm going to look up what you said.
Go right ahead. That's why you should have done the research before the show started.
I did read it. You should send better information.
Nah, you just can't
I'm
read.
tired of being attacked by you.
You just can't
Let's
read.
Go to the next
All right,
story.
y'all.
Yeah, there you go. Let's
Remember,
go.
yeah, because you wanted me to get off your ass right
You
now.
don't mind.
Remember the 5-mile little boy who called out the police after being accused of stealing? Well, his parents finally saw his video, and you already know they were not having it. So here's the update to that story.
I got a confession to make, and I got an apology. I would like to apologize to my mother and father for my actions and embarrassing them and my family nationwide. I would like to apologize to my grandmother.
Do y'all
Rosie,
have
for
the original
embarrassing her
video?
live on Facebook and also for my actions. I would like to apologize for using the N-word and anyone I have offended by my actions. I would like to apologize to the officers who was involved for my actions and my choice of words. I'm sorry for anyone I have disrespected. I'm not sorry for standing my ground, only how I acted. I owe it to myself, my parents, everyone watching, including all my supporters, to do better. Thank you.
Do y'all have the original video? Y'all got the original? I don't know if y'all saw the original video. Look, I agree with his parents in terms of use of the N-word. That's about it. I'm cool with everything my little man did. Call them cops stupid and fools because of what they said to him. No, because the cops. So basically, they accused him of stealing. And my man straight up like, look at these fools. Look at this, dog. It actually is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. I know. I mean, don't ask me. I'm waiting on it in there. Hold up. Little boy cusses cops. Let me see if I can find it that way. Let's see here. I'm waiting on. Okay, people, videos. Y'all got it? Roll it. Volume.
Look how dumb he look. Look at him. I want all y'all badge number too. I swear to God, I'm not playing. Look at him. Look how dumb they look. How dumb you look. How dumb you feel. I ain't had nothing on me, did I? Crazy. Feeling so stupid. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him, man. Thought I was stealing. Look at this man. Over here looking like the man off of, Bro, what? Stop playing with me, bro. They thought I was stealing. Now they feeling stupid. Nigga, because they caught D'Anthony with all this stuff, nigga. I ain't caught me with nothing. I ain't had nothing. I want your badge number. What's your badge number? Jamin. Yup. Bro, hey, can I get your badge number? Huh? No, can I? Bro, don't put your hands. Hey, bro, don't put your hands on me, bro. Look, y'all see it, right? Don't put your hands on me. Bro, can you get your hands off me, bro?
Are you gonna stand up again?
No, I ain't gonna stand up. Get your hands off me. I want your badge number too. And my mom, I want your badge number. I want your badge number because your badge number is about ready to pop off your fat ass. I want every one of y'all badge number. I promise you, I want every single one of y'all badge number. Y'all think out, bro. Ooh, y'all so lucky. And, bro, if y'all took these badges off, I'll fire on all right now, bro. Look at him. Look how dumb he look. You look
this way. Come on.
Look at him. Look at him. Get my bag. Get my bag.
Come on.
Get my bag. Look at him. Look at him, y'all. Look at him. Thought I was stealing. Goofy. Looking dumb. Stop playing with me. Looking dumb. Stop playing. I ain't had nothing in my bag. You sound crazy. Pocket full of money. Not how dumb do you look? Not look at him. Say hello to the live, sir. Here, look how dumb you look, y'all. Look how dumb you look. Looking stupider than... You look stupid. Just dumb. You look pitiful. You look pitiful. You look pitiful. Because you think me and my mans were stealing? You look pitiable. Pitiful. Look at you. Look, you look so stupid. Do you believe how dumb you look right now? You look so dumb. You look so stupid. This shit crazy. You look dumb.
Hey, I'm with little man. I'm like, you gonna accuse me and I ain't got nothing?
That.
Hey, like, damn that, dog. No. Hey,
You cannot encourage that.
I can. I just did.
7, 9 years old.
Hey.
Being disrespectful to the police. Give me a break.
Yeah, okay.
If you're going to endorse that.
Damn right.
I'm glad he's not coming to
Hold
live
up.
with you.
He said, are you going to endorse it? Sustain. Sustain.
Your Honor.
They would have beat
Motion
us.
for reconsideration. Your
Sustain.
Honor.
Oh, my God.
I'm glad he's not spending the summer with you.
I ain't got
Y'all
no...
both be out there cursing the police out. Let's see who we can curse out.
I would have helped my man, little man, out on his cracks.
I'm glad he wrote an apology. It seems sincere. I don't know why. I didn't see the context of why the police had stopped him.
Damn it, you weren't paying attention. They accused him of stealing. They accused him of stealing something, and he had nothing with him.
And so they stopped him, and it was a reasonable stop. Why they got to get on video and get cursed out by a 7-year-old?
Easy. Don't stop me for doing nothing.
And then tell me
just
how
like
stupid
last,
they
Man
just
was
like
stealing though.
just
His
like
boy
just
was
like
stealing.
last night. Well, guess what? Stop him. Just like last night in Raleigh, the cops thought this cat Torres was stealing a pizza. He actually paid for it, but he was running home with the damn pizza. Shot him in the abdomen.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They didn't ask him to stop?
Shot him and thinking, it was a stolen pizza. So that was worth shooting the kid?
You shoot?
No, but this is the problem I'm talking about.
Right.
The problem I'm talking about is you got young black boys who get accused by cops of stuff, didn't do stuff, somebody young react in a different way, take off, cop pull a gun out, fire, it was self-defense because I thought they were going to harm me. Damn that. Okay. Making punk asses look like some fools.
Then he needs to be, that young man needed to be quiet, have his parents called, all the video and all the smart aleck talk. That may be entertaining, but I got to tell you, his life was at risk with those cops.
No, it wasn't, because he had all their asses on video. He was streaming live. And guess what?
They could all lie
hold
together.
up, and you notice, not a single one of
They
them cops. Not a single one of them cops like, they like, little man got our ass on video. Right. Well, you saw that out there.
And what they do,
it was about 5 of them.
and what they do off camera.
As we say.
What they do off camera.
Hold up, there was no off camera because they were on camera the whole time.
When he went off camera, they could have abused him and denied it. Don't endorse it. You're wrong about that.
Not now one move.
You're encouraging child delinquency.
You can't spell.
And he didn't even steal anything.
You can't spell now. But not now one move. They like, his ass got us on video and it's straight. And then my man was like,
5 or 10
badge.
years older.
My man was like, badge.
I tell you
badge.
What, if he was 10 years to 5 years older, you wouldn't be encouraging that because I would have been beating his ass.
Yes, I would. Just like that black man, like when that cop in Chicago. I'm talking right now. Like when that black man, that white cop had the brother hemmed up in Chicago, and the brother was filming, and he was like, no, bruh, know your rights. He can't stop you right now. He can't request your ID. The brother knew the whole law, and when the brother was eating that cop's ass, and the cop was like, okay, all right. The cop walked away because the brother knew the law.
He got
No,
when
hell
the
no.
police decide to take you,
Guess what?
You can't talk them out of taking you on the street.
Guess what?
So do not encourage that on this show.
First of all, Scott, you're lying. Scott, you're lying.
No,
Scott, in Texas, no, hell no. You can take
you.
No,
you
Scott,
cannot convince them otherwise.
Scott, first of all, let me correct
There's
you
only
again.
one lawyer on the panel. Let me check.
It don't matter if you're a lawyer. Here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. That brother was hemmed up by the cop, and the cop was demanding his ID.
Yeah.
That brother did not have to give him his
did.
ID,
He
and
did.
the brother who was recording was citing the law, and that cop saw the brother with the camera, citing the law was kind of like, damn, I ain't gonna win this one. And then he walked his ass off.
Maybe that cop did,
Just
but
like-
another cop
just
wouldn't.
like you were
gonna
wrong.
Spend in jail. You're gonna spend a night in jail over some ID that could probably clear you off the
You know,
street.
people say
Stop it.
Your argument. People say all the time, you can't stop. Fight the power. You can't do this. You can't do that.
Not on the street when they decide to take
yeah,
you.
let me
You're
finish.
wrong.
Let me
I'm
finish.
right. Go, Lauren.
Harvey Weinstein. Let's get back to that for a second. Everybody said, oh, he's the most powerful producer. We can't say anything about him because we can't bring this guy down. Well, they just brought him down.
Well, that's different,
The
though.
police.
That's- you ain't talking about the police.
Okay, well, let's talk
Okay.
about the police.
Okay.
If everybody had the reaction of what the Black Panthers did, do you think the police would have the same attitude?
Well,
Probably not.
They were there.
Probably
they were there
not.
legally
Probably
at the
not.
state capitol.
Right? I mean, if everybody says at some point, we're not putting up with this bullshit anymore,
Yeah.
you're going to get a different reaction.
I
Look,
got it.
I know you live in the world of, ooh, bourgeois, we're scared, we can't say anything. It doesn't
Bourgeois?
always work.
I'm scared.
It doesn't always
Call
work.
your ass bullshit.
It doesn't always
Scared?
work.
She
It
called
doesn't
your
make
ass
point.
bullshit.
At some
Okay, I tell you
point,
what.
at some point, you got to
You
stand
all can
up.
get stopped by the
At some point, you gotta
Sustained.
stand up.
You can
At some
argue,
point, you gotta
you
stand
can
up.
do whatever you want. I'm talking about survivability. You want to spend the night in jail,
Or
you
you
want to go
want to
home?
get harassed for
It's
another
your
400
call.
years.
But
You want to get harassed for another
but
400 years.
I'm not
You just say
bourgeoisie
nothing.
because I'm giving you facts and support for survivability.
At what
when
point
you
do
counter
you
in the
stand
police.
up against
I don't know.
what's
If you're ready
wrong,
to spend
Scott?
a day in jail and
At
get
what
your ass
point?
whipped,
At what
so
point?
be it.
See,
but
you
what's
would've
the-
told
but
Martin
why
Luther
do I
King-
have to
you
be
would've told Martin Luther King to do
because I'm
nothing.
giving advice and counsel?
You
Why
would-
does that somehow make me
you would-
weaker because I'm sharing with you
Because
what the law is and what the law
because
requires?
what you're saying
I don't
is
call
the
you names.
exact
Why you
is
calling
the
me
exact
names?
same thing that they told
My
Martin Luther
goodness
King and all of
gracious.
our leaders to
No,
stand down and do
no.
nothing
You can
and just
be
go
I'm
along
not
with it.
telling
It
you
doesn't
that.
work.
I
It
said
doesn't work.
I said to get
That is what you're
to go
saying.
home or to
That
go
is
to
what you're
jail.
saying.
You can fight the power after you're arrested. You can sue. You can be made whole. You can sue the whole police department. You can file civil rights suits, what have you. What I'm talking about is survival on the streets when you encounter these police. It's a big difference.
Guess
you
what?
shouldn't be calling me names just because
Guess
I got
what?
a viewpoint. You
Guess
shouldn't
what?
be doing that.
Guess what?
I don't do it to you.
Guess what?
I don't. It never
Guess
has.
what? Little man called them names on video.
Right.
Shouldn't be encouraging.
And guess
that.
what?
You shouldn't
I'm
be
telling you right
encouraging
now. Well, guess what? All
Okay.
you cops out there, first of all,
In 5 years, he's gonna do it and he's gonna get his ass
all
whipped,
of you
and
cops,
then they gonna come to you. They
I
gonna
said
look
it
to you for
again.
suing.
All of you
They gonna
cops,
sue you
all
for
of you
encouraging
cops,
it.
all of you cops out there, learn to stop sitting here and to snatch an innocent black boy and thinking you're not gonna get videotaped. I keep telling all y'all. Always have the camera rolling at all times.
That's another thing.
And guess what? Shoot their name, shoot their badge ID, because here's the deal. What these cops expect us, they want us to be silent. They
Right.
want us to back down. They
Exactly.
want us to acquiesce. They want us to go, okay, I ain't gonna say
And
nothing.
nobody's
And
encouraging
here's-
them.
no,
Take
no,
their
no,
badge
what I'm
number,
encouraging-
film them, do whatever you
and I
want to do
said,
with them.
and
But
that's
I'm
so
talking
deal.
about
Imagine what was going on
engaging
before
them
filming
engaging them, whether you're arguing with them or otherwise, whether you're 7 or 17, is not recommended on the street at that moment.
What
Scott,
happened
Scott,
on
I
that tape?
disagree
What
with that.
happened on that
Scott.
tape proves you wrong, of course, right?
Scott, look.
Derek, go ahead, Derek.
He's 7 years old,
It proves
and
you
those
wrong.
cops
Derek
just
is
didn't
now
want to do
talking.
it.
Derek
Those
is now
cops
talking.
didn't want to do
Derek
it,
is
but
now
other
talking.
cops could.
Derek is
it's
now
a dangerous
talking.
proposition you're
Derek
promoting.
is now talking.
I was going to say, Scott, we might be a little bougie. We Jack and Jill, okay?
There's nothing wrong with Jack and
we
Jill.
went-
Y'all
Jack and Jill is a powerful organization.
Y'all
So we went
Jack
to a
and Jill.
four.
Yeah, you some bougie Negroes.
Ain't nothing wrong with being bougie. We're working class people.
You ain't working class.
Okay, middle class.
You ain't middle class.
Okay, upper middle class.
You ain't upper middle
We
class.
drive the economy. We drive the economy.
Okay,
Yo,
now
Don't get mad because we drive the economy.
Now he's driving the
I just
economy.
gave your organization $1,000.
Guess what?
You ain't even grateful for it. You hear me? That bougie just gave you $1,000.
It should have been 10,000.
And you know what? If you treat me better, you might get 10 grand from this
Y'all-
bougie lawyer.
y'all see?
Because they hate
Y'all-
bougie,
that's
except when you
right
want my
there.
bougie
That's
money.
right there.
In
No,
fact,
no.
I'm gonna give you 10,
First of
and you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna
first of all,
write bougie on it,
guess what?
and you take it, and you're gonna take it like you
Guess
take
what?
everything
I don't
else.
hate bougie.
This show is
I
over.
Just call it
I'm
when
not
I
even
see
gonna do
it.
it. I've had it. I've had it.
I just call it when I
No,
see it.
Scott's walking off the stage right now. I'm walking. Let's go. And you're walking with me. That's what we're going to. Let's go.
First of all, that's a TV monitor. That's a TV
Yeah.
monitor. You don't point to the TV monitor. Your bougie ass point to the camera. That's the camera right there.
I'm pointing at both of them. We're leaving. Who's with me?
Blind
Who's
ass.
with me?
All right, y'all.
Derek, you going?
Y'all want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Don't wait a year and a half. half like Scott did. Go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can, of course, join our Bring the Funk fan club. You can pay via PayPal, Square, or Cash App. All dollars you give go to support the show and what we do, where we try to have unfiltered black conversations all day. And then, of course, trying to inform you of the stuff that other networks, especially those cable networks where you don't see 4 black people on the set at one time, unless somebody black got in trouble. Y'all know how it goes. And if you see 4 black people on anyone, precisely. If you know, what's going on there? It killed me when a black story happened. Man, they could find every black commentator on every network. I'm telling y'all, if the sound is off, and I see 4 black people on set, I'm like, who black did something? Yeah. I'm like, something black happened. I remember when the Don Imus thing on CNN. Boy, it was so many black people on CNN. The next week with the Virginia Tech shooting, wasn't nobody black on the air.
And they were all talking about nappy hair.
It was as if
really
black people. It was as if black people could not comment on shooting at Virginia Tech. Right. Like we were just gone. Phone numbers lost, just lost. So that's why we do what we do. We want to remain independent and free and do what we do. And yes, our goal very simple. It's not to be bougie. Y'all.